Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a long time since I made a video. Been getting a lot of questions about how I lay out a rod. So I'm going to try to explain this as simply as possible. When you got your rod on your butt end, obviously is bigger than the end closer to the tip. It gets smaller as it goes. So we're gonna do a little experiment here. I'm gonna say, let's put my wrap about this distance here. We'll mark it. Our wrap is gonna go from there to there. So we get our little micrometer. I don't know, is that the right word for this? Well, anyways, we're gonna check the distance. 11.15 on the butt end. 11.15 millimeters, that is. And then we'll check the other end here, see what we got. And this is 10.28 millimeters. So as you can see, it's almost dropped in this little bit, which is roughly, I don't know, 10 inches or so. Um, it's dropped almost, I don't know, what is that, 8 sevenths or something like that, millimeters of a millimeter, almost 1 millimeter from one end to the other. So when you're wrapping this, if you just wrap, like put 4 centimeters all the way down, your you're closing the rod wrap out, your threads are going to be overlapping down on the other end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this tape around just to do for experiment. And we're going to leave like a thread length in between each piece of tape. And then we're going to draw a straight line across it with a washable marker. And then we're going to take the tape off and measure the distances in between these points. I'll fast forward me putting this tape on. Okay, I guess we're not going to go all the way to the end here. I broke the tape. Anyways, this should be enough for our test here. We're going to use these washable markers. I use these a lot because I do rod wraps and then I take them off and then do another rod wrap for you guys. I hardly ever show customer rods because I'm moving so fast and just trying to get them done. But when I'm spending time for you guys, I reuse these blanks. I got a bunch of 2 foot blanks that I just reuse. So I like to use these washable markers so I can get it off and redo another wrap for you guys. I'm going to draw a straight line here. This blue is not showing up very good. Yeah, let's switch to another color. Now, like I said, if you're doing, let's say you're doing only 3 chevrons, I would do four. Like, let's say my wrap is 4 centimeters apart. I would keep it to 4 centimeters for like 3 or 4 if I'm just going to close that in because you could squeeze 1 or 2 threads in. But when you're doing, you guys know how I do it. I do it from the reel seat through for the first guide, 18, 20 inches. So when I do those wraps, it really it's a significant change in the numbers from one end to the other. It just does not line up at all. So as you can see, I know the camera's not picking it up very good, but these first two dots will be about the same. The first distance will be really close to the same. And then the next two will be a hair bigger. And then the next two a hair bigger. And it goes on and on. So the more dots you have, the bigger it's going to be. See, that's, excuse me. It's very hard to see because your ink on your marker tip is kind of wide. So when you start really breaking it down, now if we would have done this, probably rolled the tape, 20 inches down the rod, you would see a significant change. Like let's say that first one is 33, so that's 33, 5, 6 here. This one is 32, 3, 7. See, now if we would have went 20 inches, that would probably be 35. It gets longer as it goes. So it will change your wrap. Now, if you're doing an open wrap with the rod blank showing in the middle, you really don't notice that much. Your little diamond shape will be one bigger on the butt end than towards the tip end, which really don't matter too much. Only the the person that did it would really notice. Somebody really studying it, like if you went to get your rod appraised, that would. And yes, they do have rod appraisers. I've had a couple of rods appraised, and in the very beginning when I was first started making rods, and they told me what they look for and stuff like that. So let's do a little test here. Hold on a minute. I better not use this marker. It's permanent. Let's get a washable marker. I almost permanently marked this blank. It's brand new blank. Let's go 4 centimeters. All right, so 4, 8, 12. Oh man, not 16 or 15. We gotta be at 16. See, this is why I like the washable markers. Bam, gone. If it over to 60, we're not gonna do the whole wrap. We're just gonna do a little bit here. I'm just gonna do one wrap with some size D thread to show you. Now, as you're wrapping the thread, now theoretically I should put another dot on the other side and the halfway point. You guys know how to do all that. If you've been watching me this long, you understand that. I'm just doing one dot. And you see the angle of the thread right now? That angle, when you get further away, see the distance from my hand to the rod? See, that angle is going to change further and further you go down the rod. This angle will change. So that's another thing to look at. And I'm going to show you here. Once I make the X for the chevron, you'll notice that the X will be the angles will be one way on the first X, and the angles will be slightly off on the furthest X. Just just to give you a base idea of what I'm talking about. Because when you get to the end of this rod, your end of your wrap, when you're doing full wraps like I do all the way to the first guide, it is tedious to try to do this math and get it right. All you can do, I'm going to tell you right now, all you can do is get it close. And if you put enough pressure on the line, the thread as you're wrapping it, not too little, but not too much. I tend to do too much. And then as you're wrapping a chevron, it's harder to move those threads. Like if you get say down at the butt end, you got two threaded gap, but down at the other end, you have no gap. You can force that thread, and if you leave just a little, take a little of your tension off as you're wrapping. Don't do it so tight. You can squeeze a thread or two in, So you can remember that it is not an exact science. It's just the more you do it, the better and more comfortable you feel, pretty much. So these are all going to be around 4 centimeters, roughly, because that's what we put our dots in. But look at these lines. Like I'm telling, like here in a second, I'll show you. See, look at this very first X, not the one closest to the tape, but look at that one right here. See the difference in the angle? Um, Let me explain a little bit. I thought this was going to be a real easy video to make, but it's really hard to explain. So if you got your X going this way, as you go down, the X shape is going to be significantly different. So you see the difference, the way the X is here. So it changes, so you have to change with it. Now, how do we figure out how to keep it changed? So, well, there's a couple things. I normally do two points. Like point one is 4 centimeters. Like then at point eight, I would change that. And what I would normally do is whatever my butt is to where my tip of my is going to change. So what I'll do is I'll just do the math quick, and this is what 0.87. So what I would do is like 1 millimeter. After these first two, after my eight, my next one would be 5 millimeters, and then 5 millimeters from that one, and then I would go 6 millimeters, 6 millimeters. Because, because when you're wrapping it, you're gonna run out of room with your thread. I'm telling you right now, it'll all bunch up at the end, and you're gonna regret it. And the more I look at this, the more I realize I drew this wrong. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me show you something. You see how I made the X prominent on the left? Technically, here, oh, sheesh, what a knucklehead. It'll be more of an angle towards the butt end. And the more, if you keep the 4 centimeters all the way, it'll start out with a nice chevron. Let's say, you're doing the chevron wrap here. So it'll be a nice chevron wrap. Boom, that'll be a nice chevron wrap. But as you go, your your chevron is going to turn into an X if you keep in the exact same distance in between points. So you have to add a little bit, 0.87 in this case. I would just do 1 millimeter. You know what I'm saying? And to keep that chevron looking wrap, if it goes like that, then when you add this, this next one, it's going to bring it out. It's going to make it more of a chevron look. If that makes any sense to you guys, I know I probably lost a lot of you. I feel like I'm babbling here,